we go to the phones. President Trump will be flying into Midland, Odessa a little bit later on this morning, and joining us on the phones to talk about the president's trip to Texas. I believe now the 16th trip that President Trump has made to Texas. Jason Isaac, former state representative, and also now, how's this for a title? I like this, Senior Manager and Distinguished Fellow of Life at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Jason Isaac, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Chad. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. That's a pretty cool title, by the way.
Yeah, distinguished fellow. My friends laugh at me, especially buddies from college. So
I like it, though.
Nothing's changed.
Talk about the president's trip yesterday. We had Brooke Rollings on, a former Texas Public Policy Foundation. Now she's over at the White House. She kind of talked about the national importance of energy and the president's trip to Midland, Odessa. Talk about, as far as the state goes and the state's, I don't want to say dependence on energy, but it's such an important industry in this state, and the president making a trip to talk about it. Talk about its impact here in Texas.
It's a huge economic impact. I think $16.3 billion last year in tax revenue for the state of Texas. But we are absolutely 100% dependent on it as Texans. Imagine trying to live your life for a few days without the energy that we produce. People can't even survive a few hours without energy, as we've seen in Venezuela earlier this year and late last year, where they're having terrible economic situations there. But you lose hospital power for a couple of hours, and over 50 people die in Venezuela from simple things like kidney dialysis. Yeah. People are dying, and that's what life without energy looks like. And so, yes, it's the president's 16th trip to Texas. And it's his first trip that he's going to be actually visiting a drilling rig, and I'm excited to be joining that trip later today.
That's awesome. With the president, and what's something that is important for him to know? When he's looking at when he's in Midland and obviously talking about energy, but also as far as a state focus, what's something that's important for the president to learn while he's here?
Well, you talked about seeds from China, which is interesting because they're planting seeds in Texas. You've got the Saudis that are planting seeds in Texas. The Russians are doing it. They're actually buying up land and resources. They flooded the market with oil to drive the prices down right when the pandemic started. And now you've got all these leases that are available for sale all over West Texas, and they're buying them up, and companies from these countries are buying them up. So it's a national security issue. It's a sovereignty issue. I think that's important for the president to know, the regulatory reforms that he's putting in place and getting regulatory hurdles out of the way so that we can get our products to market faster, more efficiently, and in the environmentally friendly way that we produce them here in the United States compared to our trading partners that could care less about the environment. We are world leaders in environmental protection, not only in Texas, but in the United States. And I think those are a couple of important messages the president needs to know about, as well as some of the threats to energy production, these proposed Green New Deals and Paris Climate Accords. There's over 400 cities in the U.S. that have signed on to go carbon-free electricity. When going carbon-free by 2030 does absolutely nothing to improve the environment. It's less than 0.2 of a degree different using these incredibly, accurate UN models. I joke when I say accurate and UN models in the same sentence. But you look at the temperature reduction that's proposed by 2100. If we go carbon-free by 2030, it's less than 0.2 of a degree. Yeah. That's why people are moving south, because it's warmer and they can flourish. 0.2 of a degree is nothing, but it'll absolutely decimate our economy in this country. It'll decimate our freedoms around the world. And I think the president needs to know those messages.
And I think something that's important that you brought up is, how many of these individual cities and I guess mayors and councils have bought into the Paris Climate Accords, and they're wanting to do their own thing. You look at what's going on with coronavirus, and you see the steps that some people have taken, as far as unilateral action. One thing that I fear is that we're going to see places like in California, places like in New York, I mean, if we can declare an emergency over coronavirus and shut down industries, everywhere throughout the United States, if Joe Biden becomes president and you've got AOC running the show as far as energy goes, who's to say that they're not going to use climate change to start shutting down, the energy sector here in Texas or elsewhere?
Oh, they will. They'll actually say it's a crisis. It's a catastrophic crisis that if we don't do something in 9 minutes, we're all going to die. Or wait, 9 months or 9 years. I can't remember the number they're using this morning, but it's a crisis when in actuality it's really not. You look at severe storms; they're not increasing. You look at people that are surviving over the last 100 years, a 98.9% reduction in fatalities from severe weather incidences when our population has grown by 500%. So there's not this catastrophic climate crisis. You've got over 50, I just read some studies recently, 52% of kids in the United States are having anxiety about the climate. Well, kids, I want to let you know, go outside. It's awesome. Thanks to fossil fuels, we've got a cleaner environment in the United States. We've reduced harmful pollution 77% in the last 50 years. We're number one when it comes to access to safe and clean drinking water. And our energy right here that we produce in Texas holds the key to ending poverty around the world. And we should be producing more of that energy and getting it to those third world developing countries where people don't have access to clean and safe water. Where they have to walk miles and spend hours every day. Women spend 200 million hours a day walking to collect water around the world, and we can stop that right here in Texas.
We're visiting with Jason Isaac, Senior Manager and Distinguished Fellow of Life at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. President Trump flying to Texas a little bit later on this morning, his 16th trip to the state. Jason, appreciate your time today and appreciate all the work you guys do over the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Thanks. Great to be on the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's Jason Isaac here on the Chad Hasty Show. News Talk KFYO.